Bam. Welcome, Shift Crew, Empath Nation, to the Obsidian Blade Medicine Hour. If you're catching this live on the replay, well, welcome. I am so stoked that you're here and grateful that you exist as we dive into all things New Earth and really the reclaiming of your power as a creator, but also your power as a human being. And the redefinition of what a human being actually is and what we can do, and a human being in connection with the earth who turns out to be the true power of our source of energy, right? And we are in the time of the shift. And really, what does that even mean, the shift? So we're going to dive into a lot of those elements, but as I just want to blast off and say, I'm here for you, and you're here for you, and we're building tribe, and we're building connection, and we're building truth. So I just want to say that I'm here to be a voice of clarity and insight in a time where there's still a lot of noise. There's still a lot of unacknowledgement of who we are, where we are, and what we are, as well as the acknowledgement of how we're coming into the healing of our energies, both our masculine and feminine energies, and healing those within, coming into balance of those things within us, and then having a different life on the outside of us. So again, I'm so stoked you're here. I'm grateful that we get to hang out. And always so much information seems to be coming through me. And I just want to give a shout out that good morning. This show is also a podcast. I've been doing the podcast for 2 years now. So every one of the audios from these lives, as well as individual episodes that I create for the podcast, are up on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. So you can go to theobsidianblade.com/subscribe and find all the links to that. But I also just want to give an acknowledgement of the amount of work that I'm actually creating for myself. But it's important because this is my mission, to give you insights where there may not be clarity of how we organize ourselves in this world is in a thing called society. And it turns out society is going through a shift. We're going through a change of where we're shifting from a pyramid sort of empire-driven power system into the ancient and old and true and universal force of life known as the circle or the spiral. And so we're reclaiming that circular balance and that spiral technology, which then again connects us to the earth. So, even though we have things like social media, right, we're still in an age where the majority of people are a lost people. So Instagram is kind of like a lot of lost people influencing a lot of lost people. And that's dangerous because as human beings, we have a group herd sheep-like mentality sometimes. We want to go where we are accepted. And one of the great challenges of finding your truth, especially a truth that's connected to the truth of how you even exist in the first place and your connection to Mama Gaia, that truth in some ways, though more accepted than ever before in this current timeline, is still out there. It's still wild. It's still a weird notion that we don't know if it's true because the majority of the Kardashians aren't even acknowledging it, or the president of the United States is not acknowledging that. And that's why I call that the mainstream deception machine. And, each one of us has to take responsibility to become a leader in our own life, to find what is true to us and find what is really, really true, as in like who we are, what we are, and where we are, and then live that life that's in harmony with life, which means the consciousness of existence. Or you can say, what is the consciousness of existence? Well, it's all that's around us. It's the earth, it's the planets, it's the sun, it's the solar system, it's the galaxy, it's the universe. And whether or not you're in touch with it, you are in fact touching it, because it's touching you, and you rely upon it to exist first, so that you can even exist in the second place. So I'm just going to bounce around on a lot of concepts, but I just wanted to check in with you, see how you're doing. I know that we've just gone through that full moon eclipse. There's still a lot of planets in retrograde, and we are really just, finding our way. So may I be an anchor for you finding your way. And I am so stoked that you're here. So, again, our mission is that, stretch, dance. I'll just say this, how I kicked off my morning. Of course, I did high intensity interval training, and then I just turned on the music and I danced. So I just want to encourage some dance again. I realized, I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, oh, wow, I don't like going to clubs anymore. I really don't dig festivals anymore. So I haven't been dancing, and I love dancing. So I was like, I just turned up the tunes and danced my ass off this morning. So you don't need to go to the club to get into the zone of flexing that body and moving it and turning yourself back into the ecstatic lover of life that you are. So, morning dance mix, great way to start the day. And I just want to shout out, look, if you're new to this channel, or if you're not sure what the Obsidian Blade Medicine Hour is, okay, so what we do is empaths and healers and people who are tuning into their intuition and finding and reclaiming their power. We're the people who are the creators through changing our life. We are the creators of what's next. We help co-create and anchor something that's new, something that's being asked for by humanity. And, we're blossoming into our full abilities as empaths and healers and creators, as we navigate this exit of the crumbling matrix slave system, aka the land of the dead or crumbling empires, through the exploration and cleansing of your shadow side, so that you come back to life through the full empowerment of who you really are and become the shift that you seek. And so that we arrive on New Earth in the light of the sixth sun star system, and that's the fine art of what the Obsidian Blade gets into. Is what is that? What are these worlds that we're shifting from? And what is our power? And how has our power been locked away in paradigms that we can't quite see, but we do exist within? And there's something that I thought about this morning, because I was getting stressed out. I was like, wow, I've got so much on my plate. I've got literally 30 podcast episodes of the Obsidian Blade to edit and get out the door, so that they're in your life and you can use the things that have come through me to give you a new perspective in your life. And I was just like going like, oh my God, that idea itself was super stressful. And then I had this moment, was like, oh, you exist within your day. Meaning, there's the activities that in your mind that you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. Or that seems like too much. Or like, oh, I really hate that thing that I got to do that thing, But all of those things live within the context of what your concept of your day is. So I just want to shoot that out there. Again, this thing I experienced was like, I had all these little nuggets of ideas that were causing me stress, But I also recognized in that moment, okay, I can let go of the stressful ideas and the stressful activities that I'm concentrating upon. But also, I realized that stressful activities or positive activities that we hold in our mind and then hold in our body also live within the concept of what we think our day is, right? Your life exists within a container, and that container is a concept. So all of your concepts of who you are and what you're doing also live within a concept or a particular construction of reality that gives value and importance and context to the things that you're doing in your life. So if you want change and you want more relief and you want to feel more relaxed and ease and in the flow, you not only have to change what you're participating in, you have to change the concept of all the things that you're participating in live within, right? So I kind of gave this analogy in the last episode, right? There's what you're doing, and then there's the bowl that all the activities that you do live within. And if you want massive change, you not only change what's in the bowl, you change the bowl itself. And it's this concept of you are not so much your life, but you're rather the one who's in control of the frequency of the bowl that holds all that fruit and activities. And, another parallel to that could be consciousness and subconsciousness, light and shadow, and the fact that those two things are one because they rely upon each other to exist. So in our own life, we have what we're conscious about, what we're consciously desiring, and then there's what we subconsciously agree to and believe. And that subconsciousness is that bowl, right? It is your foundation of your life. And again, if you want more ease and relief and super change to places where you might be frustrated, you've got to change the activities and you've got to change the bowl, the container that holds all of those activities. And so what does that look like, if you changed the container? And that really is the art of examining what you believe. And going through the process of asking the hard questions, but it's a simple question. There's this thing I believe. Is it true? Is it true, this thing that I believe? And, we were diving into thought and how thought can be very, very playful. If you see it as the potential that it is to choose different, you can take a thought and then you can see it from a different angle and then say, well, this thing that I thought was true might not actually be true. And that's okay, because if I let go of one thought, sure enough, there's going to be another thought that could come in and take its place if you choose. So again, there's the concept of you, and then there's the container that holds the concept of you. And the two are in relationship with each other. So you've got to change your activities and you've got to change the master paradigm that you live within, that those activities occur in, if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. Because again, I think, sometimes we want change, but we don't get change. We keep going in to repeat because, we changed our activities, but we didn't change the fundamental belief behind those activities. And so we still feel the same, or we're still getting the same results because there's still a commitment on a deep subconscious level to the way it is. And we want different. Well, then you have to change the way it is to be different as well, right? And again, this is the relationship between light and dark. In Toltec Mexica cosmology that's known as the tonal and the nahual. And, you know, subconscious and consciousness, night and day, they're in relationship with each other. The things that you can see and the things you can't see. And there's a connection there, you know? And one of the things that, you know, we're also deconstructing right now, we live in a crazy ass world that came from a different world, right? A lot of the things that we experience in this life on a society level or a government level or a corporate level, those ideas that run those shows come from a concept that is very old. So we think we're living in 2018, but we only might be living in the year 0 AD. The way things as a power structure have been still running, we still live in like the age of the Roman Empire. And when we look at what's going on in our lives, here's a truth. And I don't always want to go into these topics, but here's a truth, because I was diving into consciousness and subconsciousness. Subconsciously, humanity is still on some old shit. And you can't see it, but it's running the show. The word for it might be, you know, empire. And right now we still live in an empire age where oil runs the show. And the manipulation of resources and the control of resources runs the show. And all of us in our lives are far removed from the power games that go on to maintain that infrastructure. But whole countries' lives and the deconstruction and destruction of environment, the fabric of life, is happening because of the commitment to the old way, which is the age of empire. Now, that is typical of the Piscean age that we're shifting out of. So it makes me wonder, you know, how will the shift occur on that level where we move away from the age of the pyramid and the age of the empire to one of collaboration and equality? And to always remember, hey, Suni AI, to always remember, what is that definition of equality, right? Equality doesn't mean same. Equality means different and in your uniqueness, being who you really are, but equal to all other. And we have to examine in our own lives where we're still playing the pyramid game. And we could be playing the pyramid game in our romantic relationships, in our business relationships, our work relationships, our family dynamics, our friend dynamics. I urge you to look at where you might be playing the pyramid game with those connections, or someone in your connections is playing the pyramid game on you, which is the game of higher and lower, or someone requires your power to make them who they are, right? Whether that version of who they are is an empowered version or a disempowered version, it's still a version that is asking for your power to support. You have to be aware of those ones, especially the ones where there's a lot of defeated people in your life that require your power to maintain their power as a defeated person. So we have to examine where we're placing our attention and who we're spending our time with, because of this little thing called epigenetics and DNA rewriting. And the top 5 people The phrase goes like this: show me the top 5 people you hang out with, and I can show you your future. And if you're seeking change, that could mean dropping people rapidly in your life that aren't going to keep you to a future that you really want. Right now in my own life, an example would be, it's like, look, I'm going full tilt on the Obsidian blade. Like, this is my life. I'm committed. I'm making these lives 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. PST. I've got the podcast. I've got these videos. I have to change. It's a lot of commitment, but I'm all in. So who do I need to hang around with in my intimate circle? Other hardcore entrepreneurs who are totally committed to the correct mindset to kick ass every day. Because if I hang around people who are going to be like, oh, my life is shit, or I don't got this together, that's going to rub off. It's a hard enough job to support yourself, right? Let alone rope in or hang out with people who are like ignoring what's going on. And so, how I kicked this off, I wanted to say, like, look, I represent the shift. This is what I am for you. And may I always be an anchor and a voice of clarity and orientation to what is going on. Basically, the clarity within the chaos of the shift. And there is a lot of empowerment and clarity to be found as one world view is deconstructing, one master paradigm is deconstructing, and that we can shift our focus into another quadrant and say, this is where I thrive. This is where I not only survive, but I thrive as a creator. Yeah, Grace, you're still learning this. And Martina, yeah, your boyfriend and your friends your friends are great. That's good. Absolutely. It's important. It's important to choose wisely, and it's important that you have a space to share what is true for you and what's going on for you and what you firmly believe. Now, of course, not everyone in your life has to believe what you believe, but they at least have to be supportive and not dismissive, right? And I think that's one of the great markers of the toxic masculine that is embedded both in men and women and in culture, is where we don't acknowledge the feelings of another human being. We don't acknowledge the suffering or situation that another human may be going through. It's a denial of feeling. And we're waking up to pain, I would say. We are as a species, we've got to be waking up to the pain of the impact that we have in our own lives and the impact that we've had as a collective on other human beings and the planet right now. So examine, where you're needing to be nicer to yourself. And what are the new habits and routines that you can get into that are also going to support you? And, when I study, high performing entrepreneurs out there, there seems to be a very consistent thing that we all do. And I do it too. So it's wake up, it's go to bed early, which I have a very hard time doing, but get the sleep that you need is really the key thing there. But waking up early and immediately working out for 30 minutes, like high intensity interval training, or something that gets your heart rate up hard for 30 minutes, is going to shape and shake up your mind so amazingly and give so many endorphins to your body. And then really sitting down and performing a gratitude practice and a meditation practice after you've worked out, and to, really honor and acknowledge what's going on. And, I realized that in this time of the shift, a phrase that I've used before, what we're doing is that we're making the invisible visible. That's part of what's going on. Like the new technology of New Earth is magic. Okay. And a magic that relies upon a deep connection with Earth. Because with nature is, like I said in the last episode, nature is magic and magic is nature. And when you're connected to nature, you're connected to magic. And when you're connected to magic, you're connected to nature, which is the Mother Earth. But we're shifting, we're making the invisible visible. So this is a very cool metaphor on multiple levels. So what has been invisible in your life so far has been your subconscious. And like I say, our first new superpower as we shift into the new earth is the ability to see in the dark. To see in the dark of your subconscious. So to be able to see in the dark of your subconscious is to make the invisible now visible, meaning you're understanding not only the choices that the micro activities, but you're also understanding the choice of your master paradigm context of all your activities. And that, again, if you want to create a powerful change in your life, you don't just change the activities, you change the very ground that all your activities exist upon, which is the master paradigm agreement of your existence. So again, the quest in our life, if we want liberation, we've got to find what's invisible and make it visible by using our power of being able to sit in the dark. And, that practice is what we would call self-inquiry. So again, a heavy duty meditation practice where you're really sitting down in the quietest place that you can, free of the distractions, to do this. And what's up, Tiger Fresh? And, Richard Ote, hello, good morning. To sit down and have a heavy, hardcore meditation where you're really getting into the silence. And like I said, not only examining your activities that's going through the day and relaxing those and being like, let me just step back from my activities, but also let me step back from the fruit bowl that I'm calling it, that holds all your activities. That's your master paradigm, and both of those are up for grabs. And again, how do we conjure the faith that we are really connected to something that's real in a society that still does not celebrate what's real? And that's where we have that phrase cognitive dissonance, right? We've touched great truths within us, but we still live in a context where those great truths are not celebrated, right? There is no fucking Academy Awards right now for having a connection to the earth. Did you know that? Did you fucking see that? No one's getting celebrated for having an amazing connection with the earth. Yet we live only because of her. Without the Mother Earth, you don't exist. So how is it that we could live in a society that has zero acknowledgement of what creates us and what we depend upon, other than the occasional sweet, like, I love nature and isn't it nice to walk in the forest? Like, that's a nice thing, okay, go hug a tree type of kind of like nature. But I am recalling a level of connection to the earth that goes beyond a fucking sweet Hallmark card, okay? I'm talking about recalling a connection to the earth that is a fiery connection of creators, like ignited as, warriors or whatever title you want to give it, on fire in symbiotic connection with the earth as her representative and as her consensual co-creator of realities. Like, I'm not talking about like, isn't nature nice? I'm going to take a little walk in nature and breathe some fresh air. No. No, I'm talking about like, I'm fucking having lunch with Mama Gaia and we're plotting what we would like to co-create together, and it's going to be fucking bitchin'. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm getting turned on to. That's what I'm reigniting, and I'm remembering that level of co-creators, consensual co-creators who come together and say, wouldn't it be cool to experience this? Wouldn't it be cool to experience that? You know, that level of picking up our power, not to build an empire on top of her and dominate her, but to rather go into this collaboration with her and going like, oh, let's get fired up. Let's create new social structures. Let's create new buildings that like are like harmonized with the earth, and new buildings that are harmonized with the stars. You know, we used to have that. We still can go. You can go visit cultures. You can go visit the old Toltec structures in Mexico and the Mayan structures in Mexico and see a culture that did live like that. That did live in a way that was living in harmony with the earth and the stars at the same time, because they're one and the same. So, you know, that awareness is not lost on us. We're just like hyped up and busy on some shit, you know? And we have to be cognizant of, hey, are you playing in somebody else's game? A dangerous game of popular lost people influencing lost people to stay lost. Watch out for that game. And especially watch out for it not only in the media that you consume, but the people you hang out with. This is not a time to hang out with lost people because they're rubbing off on you. Now, of course, we want to help and deliver wisdom and insight, but I'm telling you, there's some people, it's not their time in this lifetime to be illuminated, you know? It's not their time, and you don't have a say on, you know, what their time is. And so, again, I encourage you, if it feels like you're not moving ahead in what you want to do, you've got to examine what you've been committed to, consciously, subconsciously, and also it's a connection there. Who you hang out with is also an agreement as to what you're worth and what you believe you are capable of. Who you hang out with is your subconscious agreement to what you believe you're worth and what you're capable of. And if you want to switch up your capabilities and your self-worth and take it to a bigger level, then you can see where you're going to make some new conscious and subconscious choices, you know? So we got to practice, you know, those activities, and we've got to practice a lot of faith in the fact that we are making the invisible visible by seeing in the dark of these choices. And we're seeing or making the invisible visible by connecting with the earth in that powerful way I was just describing, and saying like, how would you like to co-create with the earth? And what would that even look like to have a symbiotic, conscious partnership with her, rather than living on her, living with her, okay? And remembering that I know it sounds crazy when what I just could sound far-fetched, impossible, or crazy, but that's only because we live in a culture that utilizes the earth and totally denies her at the same time. I have to say it again. We live in a culture that totally relies upon and uses the earth for everything, yet denies her at the very same time. And that's how we treat the feminine right now in a lot of ways. And that's the shift we're seeing in culture that will then become the foundation for the shift that we have with the earth itself, right? Right now, we talk a lot about having consensual relationships within partnerships, consensual sex, consensual sharing, whatever it is, it has to be consensual rather than a domination, right? So what then extends to become a consensual relationship with the earth, and then a consensual relationship with existence, as you as a powerful creator who isn't creating by ignoring other people or ignoring life, but creating in harmony with other people and in harmony with life. I just want to give a shout out. One of the new things that I've done recently is create this thing on Facebook. I did create a private Facebook group called the Obsidian Blade Shift Crew, the HQ for your breakthrough. And if you're curious about that, links are in the bio or below this video. And I want to encourage you to show up there. Anything that I say here, I'm going to go in deeper over there and really begin that sort of, the foundation for how we can anchor these things and start living them, right? Because the only way that we have permanent change is that if we become the change first, right? So click the link in the bio or click the link below this video, and please join me over on the private Facebook group. Again, the Obsidian Blade on Facebook, and then you'll find groups on that page. But I would love to see you there, and for you to tell me, I'm using that space. You can always DM me, you can always email me, but I'm creating that space where, we've got to be able to bounce things off and anchor new structure, infrastructure. Because again, we are exiting a major infrastructure of an empire age, an age of empires, much like our subconscious is running the show. So, I mean, you look at where we're totally far removed from what governments and like oil corporations are up to, but they're running the show of the old empire. They are literally running the show of the old empire. It's fucking scary what people are up to on that level. Like destabilizing whole countries in order to just build a pipeline, oil pipeline through it. I mean, and then holding a whole world, not a country, holding a whole world hostage due to somebody getting theirs first. And greed and domination. These are some sick motherfuckers. Some sick motherfuckers who then enroll a majority of the planet to support their agenda. And we have to examine, without having to lose our lives combating that old empire, how do we find our power and make the shift? And so that is a deep examination of where you're finding your self-worth and what game you're playing. And, there's a phrase that I love so much. It could sound like a fantasy at first when I say it, but, ignore reality at all costs. Ignoring reality at all costs is going to be the one thing that might just save you. Because when you ignore reality at all costs, especially in your meditation, you're giving yourself a chance at freedom by then having an aha moment of seeing the life that you've been participating in before you participate in it. That's why meditation could be considered a mini retreat, right? It is literally a retreating from your current life for an hour a day. You go into a sacred space of turning off all of your activities, all your outward engagement, to examine the internal agreements of where you've been playing. And, it's an interesting one. I started hitting upon it last night, this kind of like, what does it really mean to shift from the age of empires, the age of Pisces, to the age of Aquarius? And we are doing it. It is happening. And I would say technology is a very good, water meter or temperature gauge as to where we are. And that technology, what it's doing right now, a lot of people could say, oh, okay, well, social media is bullshit, or social media is just like a lot of garbage, and we're society is crumbling. But I think a very interesting thing, what it's showing us, that may be true, but it's showing us truth. It's exposing that subconscious agreement, right? So we could say, oh, there's just a lot of garbage on the internet. Or I'm not saying that there is, but I'm saying the one perspective you could say is like, if you really look at, like, if you hit the explore tab on Instagram, right, and you see what's like trending, right, it's just a lot of entertainment or just stupid shit or violence, or just, again, pyramid worship of who's popular, right? But at the same time, rather than like getting down about that, you could say the truth is it's exposing who we are and what we've been committed to. It literally is showing us who we are and what we've been committed to. And so on a certain level, that exposure of the ugly is important, because it's going to give us a chance to be like, oh, yeah, there's not really many more years and decades we can keep going with creating this kind of like celebrity culture and deception culture and violence culture, right? We've got to, if you do any sort of healing work, you got to expose the ugly first. You've got to expose the wound first, and then get to root cause. And so I think that's what technology is doing. It's not ruining society. It's exposing who we really are. And that's where we begin as people who are in the shift. We just have to admit that we've been on some ugly fucking drugs called the pyramid scheme, the fame game, the complaining game, and all run by the context that's been driving society, which is an empire context. And empires are typically a force that dominates another force to get what it wants. And so that's the master context of what we've grown up in, but we have the opportunity to shift away from when we expose the ugly first. And that's what technology is doing through what we call social media. And then in social media, right, that's why we're here. We're finding the gems. Out of that shit, we're finding the pearls. On YouTube, we're finding the things that are actually like healthy for us to hang out with and healthy to engage with. And they're pointing towards like, hey, this consciousness thing feels a whole lot better. This self-love thing is a lot more healthy. And, we're turning on to it, Thank you, Suni. Yeah. And consistent speech. Yeah, thank you. And please, again, check out, if you're not on the YouTube live show, I encourage you to go to the link in my bio for the YouTube live show if you're on here on Instagram. And, we do it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. PST. And again, all the audios from these, shows are cleaned up and then put on the podcast, which you can go to theobsidianblade.com/subscribe and listen to it on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever you need. I got you covered, or you can just listen to it on the website. But again, just, cleansing out all the gems from these talks and putting them there on the podcast for you. I just want to give a shout out to, if here on YouTube, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps support the channel. It helps other people, know that this is some quality that we're hopefully putting out. And if you love this video, please hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. Again, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, PST, 10 a.m. So I just want to give that shout out there. So I want to hear from you. How are you feeling? How are you making the invisible visible in your own life? And are you discovering not only the choices you're making, but the beliefs behind those choices? Have you come across those? Have you hit any deep beliefs lately and going like, I wonder what it might be like to shift up that belief? Or you might be even challenged to shift up that belief because it's been so core to who you think you are. But again, you don't need to change if you don't want to change. It's really just always examining, like, do you need change? Would you like to feel different, right? There is no I have no say in what you want in your life. I have zero say in what you want in your life. And neither does anybody else. But really what I stand for is the empowerment of you realizing your choices. And if you would like to choose different, how can we get to that place where you are choosing different? And to remember that you're making conscious choices, and you've really got to identify the subconscious choices, because let me give you this quick metaphor that you can see with your own eyes in your own life. There's you, and then there's the earth, right? So look at the size of you and then look at the size of the earth, right? So there's your life, which then stands, and with the earth that you rely upon for everything. And look at how huge she is, right? Look at the context of her and the infrastructure of her and her environments and ecologies that keep you alive, right? That is like a structure, right? So in our own lives, it's kind of like we have these tiny little conscious thoughts, a little idea here, a little idea there. But those tiny little ideas rest upon a bigger, massive foundation. And those foundations are really where your beliefs live. Okay. So if you want some change, let me know. And what does that look like for you? To make that invisible visible. And it's an interesting quest. I'm right here with you on that quest of like, hey, what's it going to look like? How do we connect with Earth? And what's a shift culture look like? What does the Aquarian age even look like? Or life in the sixth sun look like? And the more you do the work of examining where you've committed your beliefs, the closer you will get to that place of the shift and being in that new space of being a collaborator and co-creator with the earth. My hope is to see beautiful like structures and villages and connections with human beings where we're being real and we're honoring her, and integrating our awareness of her at all times, rather than going like, oh, I should take a walk in nature. It's like, oh my God, we're so silly. We got to go take a break to go walk in nature. Like, we're kind of doing it wrong. If we got to take a break to go walk in nature when we could somehow figure out a way to create a infrastructure of a society that lived with consciousness of nature and earth at all times, as we did the things that excited us most, right? So that's what I have for today. Again, technology is a good, I would say, meter of making the invisible visible. And I think technology is also, I like to say, a third dimensional crutch for a fifth dimensional reality. So a lot of these things that we're doing here, where we're connecting and we're having a vision, you can see me, I can kind of hear you through the text. There's other formats where we could see each other, but we're having a vision of each other. It's a very psychic activity, that you can contact me and I can contact you, and we live in different places. and we can share a vision together and say, yes, that feels good. It's a very interesting, like communal energy, or like a symbiotic energy, that we can share ideas and feel them in real time, you know? And technology is helping us remember this ability, but eventually we might not need these devices to be who we are, what we are, and where we are in our truth. So I'm going to leave it at that. Listen, if you got questions, hit me up or join the private Facebook group and leave your questions there. So as a group, we can create momentum and discovery together. And my commitment for that private Facebook group is to really give some infrastructure to what I'm sharing so that you can rely upon and reference that infrastructure as a sort of a manual to what feels good to you as you become your unique shift in the direction of the sixth sun and the Aquarian age. That's that literally is happening right now. The shift literally is happening right now. And if you do this deep level of empowerment and reclaiming your power from the old structure, you can make that shift happen sooner than later. Each one of us is responsible for our level of shift. And we all each we're not waiting for it to happen. We don't have to wait for the shift to happen. The more you do the work, the more the shift will occur. Yes. So please join the like-minded, yes, encouraging community so that we, again, end any cognitive dissonance and reflect good communication and truth to each other about what is still not accepted in the mainstream, but eventually will, which is your life as an empowered creator in consensual collaboration with the earth. All right. Love you so much. See you at Friday, 10 a.m. PST. Catch you soon.